The following program is a production of Faith to Victory Ministries.
Welcome to Believer's Challenge, with minister and founder of Faith to Victory Ministries, Michael Collins. Now, here's Michael with this week's discussion.
On this week's Believer's Challenge, we're talking about the subject of temptation, and we're specifically talking today about standing up to temptation, because it's something that we all have to deal with every day of our Christian walk. We're all going to be tempted to do things that are going to cause us to act independently of God. That is to say that we act out of what we know is His will for our life, which is, plainly stated, doing the right thing. As Christians, we're called to be dependent on God, not independent of Him. And that dependence requires trusting the truth that God only wants what's best for you and will never lead you into sin, but deliver you out of it. It also requires faithfulness, our faithfulness to Him shown by willful obedience to what He's told us is the right thing for our life. We need to have a sincerity of heart, which God already knows, but loves to be shown. He knows if we're really being sincere about what we want and need, and if we have the right motivation for the help we're asking for, especially when it comes to standing up to temptation. Then there's the most essential and important part of being dependent on God, and that's patience. Patience is probably the most difficult of all things to be in the process of waiting on God's provision and not stepping out of His will and doing things on our own. As we grow and mature spiritually, we learn from experience that our dependence on God's timing and His way enriches and strengthens our relationship with Him. With that being said, why should we even consider ever acting independently of His will and His goodness and His faithfulness that God has already consistently demonstrated throughout our walk with Him? The answer to that question is because of our impulsive and impatient carnal nature. It's something that we all need to be aware of so we can deal with temptation much more effectively while remaining in God's will and continuing to move forward in the right direction for our life, instead of taking a detour down the path of sin. As I said before, temptation is something we all deal with on a daily basis. But in His Word, God gives us great encouragement and insight into how we should view temptation as well as how we stand up to it with confidence. His Word assures us that our Father is always with us, especially when we're at our weakest and on the verge of giving in to sin. 1 Corinthians 10:13 tells us this: "No temptation has overtaken you but such as common to man. And God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, so that you will be able to endure it." That tells us that we're not going through anything or being tempted in any kind of way that anyone else has not experienced before. In other words, we're not the only one who faces temptation. But when we are, there is always a way out of it. There is always the right choice that will enable us to walk in step with God and stay the course of walking in His will. God wants us to realize this because He knows how easily we all are enticed and lured into the temptation of instant gratification and what we think will satisfy us instead of patiently waiting for His best. Our Father knows how hard this life is, and He also knows every temptation we're going to face throughout the course of our lifetime. Certainly, He wants us always to be strong enough to stand up to that temptation. But God also knows that there are going to be times that we're going to fall prey to the enemy's schemes and the lure of temptation that he brings about in our weakest moments. That's why God's Word is such an important part of successfully overcoming sin in our life, because it teaches us how to not let sin overcome us. Instead, it teaches us how to be victors over sin and how not to be victims. This has been Believer's Challenge, and I'm Michael Collins for Faith to Victory Ministries saying, be blessed, be encouraged, keep moving forward, and remember, where there's faith, there will be victory. Have a blessed day.
For more daily inspiration and encouragement from Faith to Victory Ministries, find us on Facebook, Google+, and YouTube.